A scary stat. Loneliness kills 100 people every hour. That number is real and it's preventable. The World Health Organization has always listed social health as essential, but we often overlook it. It sits right next to physical and mental health, and it always has. But for some reason, we forget about it. Now, social connection isn't about how many people you know or how many people you can call. Social connection is really about how supported, safe, and seen you feel by the people around you, and if they would call you, and if you would call them. 1 in 6 people worldwide are lonely. 1 in 4 teenagers report isolation, and 1 in 3 older adults have no regular contact. Think about that.
Loneliness is no longer a private struggle. In 2026, it has become a silent epidemic, one spreading quietly through cities, suburbs, and digital spaces alike. We live more connected than any generation in history, yet more disconnected than ever before. Screens replace faces. Algorithms replace conversations. And community, once the backbone of society, slowly erodes. This isn't just about feeling alone.
Loneliness is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is what the U.S. Surgeon General said in 2023. And so why do I talk about romantic love and connection and loneliness? Not just romantic love, but connection in general, mental health and what that does to you? Because of this. A doctor who studied loneliness, his name was Jeremy Noble, he said this: being lonely is a very specific feeling of something missing. And what's missing is a sense of connection to people at the level that you want to have that connection, and in that gap between the social connections you aspire to and what you feel you have is what we call loneliness. So it's gap. It's minding the gap of mental health, minding the gap of what the connections are that I want to have, what are the connections that I have. Something else he says here, I'm not sure if I 100% agree with it. Tell me what you think. He says, often the path to connect with others starts with connecting to yourself, to give yourself the room to be authentically curious about what matters to you in the world, what you're interested in. And as you move towards that and explore that, it often opens up channels to connect with other people who might have similar curiosities and similar interests. So basically what I'm hearing is like, know yourself and then know what you're interested in and then connect to others on what you're interested in. And that to me sounds like something that I've heard the majority of my life, right? And I think lots of people who have long-term loneliness and long-term issues with connection in whatever it be, platonic, familial, or romantic, they have heard this often, and so they get discouraged by it. The discouragement makes perfect sense to me because, of course, you've tried it numerous times. So your brain is already saying, let's play this out in our mind. Here's the outcome. But the hard part is that the only cure for loneliness is connection. The only way to connect is to take steps to talk to others. Sometimes it's easier to start online and then we move into in-person connection. The other piece that I think is really important is what type of connections we do have, start trying to push ourselves past what we're comfortable with. So if I'm somebody who never says hello or chit chats with the customer service person, then maybe I try that. And I know that there's been a whole other conversation about chit chatting with service workers. And so I don't have the answers. None of us do. But I do want people to connect easier and better. And I do want to figure out how do we get to a less lonely world. So if you're lonely, know that I care about you, know that I'm sending you love and hoping it can be less lonely.
Loneliness is now a measurable public health emergency. Chronic loneliness increases the risk of heart disease, depression, dementia, and premature death, on par with smoking or obesity. Hospitals and healthcare systems strain under the weight of invisible suffering, while mental health services remain overwhelmed and underfunded. Millions are hurting quietly, without diagnosis, without support, without connection.
One of the most powerful things that anyone can do, believe it or not, is to have someone each morning that they text good morning to. I know this is going to sound trivial, corny, and I'm happy to take the heat on this one. Find a friend, and in particular, men who lack friends completely, because there's a greater percentage of those, although it's certainly the case that many young women and women are lonely as well. Find someone who you can communicate with each morning. Just a good morning text. Seriously, this is one of the most powerful things you can do to check in with another member of your species each morning. You don't have to have conversation. You don't have to talk about what you're going to do each day. Knowing that someone else out there in the world cares about us each morning when we wake up makes us feel incredibly part of the tribe.
But the damage doesn't stop at the individual. Loneliness weakens trust. It fractures social bonds. And when people feel unseen and disconnected, societies become vulnerable. Disconnected populations are more susceptible to misinformation, radicalization, and social unrest. When belonging disappears, people search for meaning elsewhere, sometimes in dangerous places. Polarization deepens. Empathy declines. Communities fracture.
Nobody talks about the degree of loneliness a person can experience when they don't have their own soul tribe or people that they feel connected to or resonate with. There truly is an epidemic of loneliness. And when people say, I'm not lonely, I don't get lonely, first of all, you're not cool, okay? Being lonely is actually a normal human thing. We're all meant to connect. We're all meant to feel like we belong to something. And what I've noticed with working with clients, as well as myself, as well as people around me, there is a huge epidemic between a person and their mental health and loneliness. And I think a lot of us overlook the concept of loneliness. A lot of people use this very generic statement of, oh, I like being alone, I never get lonely. Being alone and loneliness are two different things. You can be a person who enjoys being alone, but you still can get lonely. And I don't know why, it just irritates me when people are trying to one-up a person when it comes to the concept of loneliness. We're mammals, okay? We are literally mammals at the end of the day. We are meant to flock in like a tribe or a group, or we're meant to be communal. And I think that a lot of us are in situations where we don't feel like we're around our own people. We're not around people that we feel like we resonate with. We're not around people that feel like vibrate on the same frequency as us. We're not around people that have the same values. And I think this right here is causing such a decline in mental health. And I think a lot of therapists and psychiatrists are coining it as these mental health issues, when in reality, loneliness is a real experience. And even if you're somebody who enjoys your solitude, you can still experience loneliness. So if you feel like there's so much anxiety that you have, or you feel a degree of hopelessness or depression, don't be shocked at the fact that you could be experiencing loneliness, but you're not even fully aware of it.
The economic cost is staggering. Lonely workers are less productive, more likely to miss work, and more prone to burnout. Innovation slows. Collaboration suffers. Entire industries feel the drag of a workforce that feels isolated, replaceable, and disconnected from purpose. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's structural.
7 signs of chronic loneliness. Number 1, you've forgotten what real connection feels like. Genuine connection feels foreign, like a distant memory. You've adapted to isolation so much that real closeness feels unnatural. Number 2, you feel lonely even when around others. It's not just about being alone, it's about feeling unseen. Even in a crowd, no matter who you're with, the loneliness doesn't go away. Number 3, you seek connection in the wrong places. Doom scrolling, binge watching, overworking. You're not actually enjoying it, but it numbs the loneliness, at least for a little while. Number 4, you feel like an outsider everywhere, even in places where you should belong. Family gatherings, work, friend groups. You feel like you're watching your life from the outside. Number 5, you fear silence. You rather engage in mindless small talk than sit alone with your thoughts. But after, you still feel drained because those conversations didn't actually fulfill you. Number 6, you struggle to express your true feelings. You hold things in not because you have nothing to say, but because you don't believe anyone will truly understand. Number 7, you downplay your own needs. You tell yourself you don't need deep friendships or emotional support, but deep down, there's a longing for genuine connection.
Even democracy feels the strain. Loneliness erodes participation. People disengage from local communities, stop voting, stop volunteering, stop believing their presence matters. When connection fades, accountability follows. A disconnected society is easier to divide and easier to control.
I am meant to be lonely.
Can I ask you a hard question, Jeff?
Sure.
Why don't you think you're worth having friends?
No one showed up. My mother, my father, no one showed up. Manager, friends, no one showed up.
I don't have a million friends. I sort of keep myself to myself.
If someone else spoke to me the way that I speak to myself, I'd have to kill that son of a bitch because, I couldn't tolerate that. I don't know why we're just so mean to ourselves, man.
I don't have that many, friends that I trust and can tell things to, so.
Why is that?
I don't know. Probably a lot to do with me.
So many people think they have you figured out when they don't even know the half of it.
How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing?
Put a finger down if no one's ever loved you.
And yet, this crisis is rarely discussed. Because loneliness doesn't riot. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break windows. It isolates quietly, one person at a time. Technology promised connection. Instead, it often delivers performance without presence. Likes replace listening. Scrolling replaces seeing.
Loneliness is toxic for human beings.
Is there anything I can do to help you? I can use a hug. I'll give you a hug. It seems like you got a lot going on, man. It's all right. It's all right, man.
But this epidemic is not inevitable. Communities that invest in shared spaces, mental health access, intergenerational connection, and real human interaction see real change. Loneliness thrives in silence. Connection disrupts it.
I just read an article about the U.S. Surgeon General declaring a national loneliness epidemic, citing that nearly half of all U.S. adults are experiencing a considerable level of loneliness. How crazy is that? Because I don't know the statistics, but I'm pretty sure that half of the U.S. adult population is not single. So what does that say about the American dream of marriage and family? What's that say about the person who's constantly posting on social media about their blessed and wonderful life? Now, the article does go on to cite that we are more isolated today than ever before, some of it being left over from the pandemic, where we were more reliant on getting things delivered versus physically going to the store and interacting with humans. It also says we're more reliant on online interactions like social media or even dating apps versus in-person socializing. But half of all people, that is an epidemic. And I think personally it's deeper than physical socialization, though. I think we've all known that feeling of being in a room full of people yet still having a deep loneliness that you just can't shake. I think it's that people aren't really showing up as their real authentic selves. People fake being happy that everything's great, never been better. There's kind of this push for keeping things positive, looking on the bright side. But like, what if we leaned into our dark and messy side, let it all hang out? Would that kind of open more avenues for more meaningful connection?
The question facing us in 2026 isn't whether loneliness is real. It's whether we're willing to confront it before disconnection becomes the defining condition of modern life. Because a society that forgets how to connect, forgets how to survive,